Hey, welcome back to the Obvious Choice podcast. I'm Jonathan Goodman here with Ren Jones. Today's episode is called Social Media is Not Enough. I feel like this is one of those episodes that you might have clicked on to listen because you were a little bit intrigued. You know, a lot of the common zeitgeist that we're made to believe these days is that we have to use social media in order to get clients. We have to use social media in order to get customers. And perhaps that's true. Perhaps it's a way to achieve that. I would never argue that. I mean, not even perhaps. Like, obviously, you can get customers through social media, but it's not enough, and it also doesn't come first. And so today's episode is all about that, and I hope that by the end, you're going to have a lot of direction as to how to use or not use social media for your goals. At the end of this, I have basically a framework for you. So I'll start with a quote. This is from a journalist named Oliver Burkeman. He wrote a book called 4,000 Weeks Time Management for Mortals. Fantastic book. He said, "The information economy is essentially a giant machine persuading you to make the wrong choices about what to do." And I agree. Because for every 18-year-old on social media that thinks they need a big following just to make a few sales, there's about 100 silent business owners quietly earning more. Creating content is a really overrated way to build a business. Did you see when the Snoop Dogg promotion was a couple months ago where he said, "I'm giving up smoke"?
Yes,
Okay, so let me tell you
I
about
remember
that.
it. It's very clever, by the way.
Very clever, but there was a conclusion to it that nobody anticipated. Happened a few weeks ago. So, background, Snoop Dogg and Solo Stove, they teamed up on this viral marketing campaign. It earned 19.5 billion global media impressions. Now, to put that into context, that's 4.5 times more impressions than there are humans on Earth. Just for some context of how many that is, okay? In it, Snoop said that he was giving up smoke. And then the next day, what we realized is that it was a promotion for a smokeless fire pit company. So Solo Stove gained 60,000 new social media followers as a result, and Ad Age ranked it as the 18th best advertisement of 2023. 2 months later, in early 2024, Solo Stove's CEO resigned with this statement. "While our unique marketing campaigns raised brand awareness of Solo Stove to an expanded new audience of customers, it did not lead to the sales lift that we had planned." A share doesn't help business if nobody cares about the business. Improved brand awareness can be beneficial long term. It's yet to be determined what the impact was on Solo Stove's business, all of these impressions. But based off of the CEO resigning, and in fairness to Solo Stove, if you look at the revenue, it was going down before this. This might have been like a Hail Mary approach, but it clearly did not have the impact on immediate sales that they had hoped that it would have. Now, whether it'll have an impact on brand, in the next 10 years, we don't know. What I think, though, is important to think about from this example is you cannot depend on content for your short-term success. This was, by all accounts, the most successful viral marketing campaign of last year, potentially of the last 5 to 10 years. It had 4.5 times more impressions than are humans on Earth. You can Google, Snoop Dogg giving up smoke, Snoop Dogg Solo Stove. You'll find thousands of articles. The media went nuts. And yet, the CEO resigned because it didn't boost sales. Social media is best thought of as a lagging, not leading indicator of impact. It amplifies what's already there. It's the fuel, not the fire. I think it's really important to think of your online platform as a savings account where you make investments when you have extra time and money. And I think that it's okay to hope that it kicks off ongoing interest so long as you don't plan on it. And you plan on it taking years to develop into anything meaningful. Now, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you might think that I'm anti-social media. Far from it. I think that everybody should build their online platform. But the way that most people do it is burning them out. And so I want to change that. I want to talk about how it can be a great use of their time. When you saw the ad with Snoop Dogg, what was your reaction?
No way. It's got to be a thing. It's got to be a something, right? I think most of us familiar with his brand and familiar with the concept of creating virility or marketing. We were all kind of. I feel like we went into it with the thought of it's not skepticism may not be the right word, but I'll use it for lack of a better term. We were probably okay. Let's wait for this other shoe to drop because this is
Right.
probably a thing.
What's the catcher? And then when you saw that it was another thing, when you saw that it was a smokeless fire pit, what'd you think?
I thought, oh, that was interesting and clever. What I did not think is I need to go out and get a smokeless fire pit. So, I mean, it was a thing. It's interesting. Did stuff. But you
Yeah.
got your finger on the pulse of the problem right there. And I'm surprised that it happened at such a high level of marketing with a corporate entity. Entertainment and sales aren't the same thing, right? And social media loves to reward you for entertainment. But a lot of,
So,
and we've talked about this probably ad nauseum at this point, John, like social media rewards you for doing things that benefit social media, not things that benefit you. I've got a story about this from yesterday. I'm gonna put a pin in it. I'm gonna wait. It'll probably be more appropriate in a second or two. But yeah, so that's what I
oh,
thought.
I want to hear your story. Let me tell you, there's a tweet that I liked today. I hearted a tweet today
You like the tweet?
from Dakota Robertson. He's longs to write on Twitter, and I've had some conversations with him. Seems like a good dude. But he wrote, and I agree, the content that gets you the most likes is usually not the content that gets you the most money. And I agree. It's a very simple way to say it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with content that gets a lot of likes, but you can't look at it as something that you expect to solve your immediate problem. I think that's the key message. What's the story, Ren?
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with one of our online coaching students in the Online Trainer Academy yesterday.
Online Trainer Academy. That's what that's for.
Yeah, I'm a one-to-one mentor there. So I get to talk to coaches who are trying to improve things. So this coach was asking me questions about prepaid content, a name that I do not know, but I'm sure amongst our coaches they probably know the person who does
Prepaid
this.
content? What's
Yeah, prepaid content. You pay for the content, pre-orchestrated. You pay for the content, and then you use the quote unquote white label content as your content to drive whatever you want to drive. The context of this coach's conversation was, Ren, I want you to help me figure out how reasonable this is and whether or not I should continue to do this. I said, okay, tell me what you're thinking about. He said, well, I pay for this content. I've been using it and I've been tracking the likes, and went on to tell me, so I posted in January, I got this many likes and this many comments. Posted in December, I got this many likes and this many comments. He said, what do you think about that? I said, I think you're measuring the absolute incorrect thing.
Yeah.
Who cares how many likes it got? Now, if you're going to try to figure out if this content is leading to what you want to get accomplished, you got to think, what is your desired end goal? Is your desired end result to get likes or is it to get revenue? Then you can compare the content to the amount of increased or decreased revenue and say, per application of this content, it drives this certain dollar amount at this average sales size, and whether that's up or down. I said, but do you really want to know at the end result whether or not you got a like? What's the purpose of the like? Oh, so I can get more clients. I said, well, you don't care how many likes you get. That's irrelevant. And I think this builds into what you're about to tell us here, John, like how confused people are between attention and conversion. And some attention could lead to some conversion, but attention is not the conversion metric that you're trying to get. Doesn't really mean anything.
It depends
what your goals are.
It depends what your goals are. Do you have a very long time horizon?
Right.
Where your hope is that you're going to build a platform over many years and you have something else feeding you now. That's mine. Straight up. That's mine.
Right.
And that's why I'm able to do what I do. I've just, for the last, I don't know when the last time that I posted on Instagram was, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I'm just going through a phase now where I'm just completely and utterly disinterested.
Right.
And that happens. And I'll get back to it at some point. But I'm not stressed about it because we're still making sales. Because Instagram doesn't affect sales. Now, long term, if I completely ignored social media for years, it would affect our sales.
Mm-hmm.
But in the short term, it has no impact, which there's a lot of freedom to that. So you have to build a business that doesn't rely on you coming out with something brilliant to say on the internet today.
Right.
And
Oh,
so,
that's a great line. Is that line in the book? You
no,
have to come
what
up
was
with
the
a
line?
concept that doesn't depend on you saying something brilliant on the internet today. That's such a great way to look at it. You have to come up with a strategy that does not depend on you saying something great on the internet today. That's shit. It's podcast over, John. That sums up everything that I wanted to say to our coaches, students rather, and you have to come up with a strategy that does not depend on you saying something great on the internet today. Gosh. And this is why people get on calls with me on one-to-one and say, what should I post about? I'm struggling with content. No, you're struggling with your business.
Yeah.
Content may be a piece of your business, but your problem isn't your struggle with creating content. Your problem
Right.
is with your business generating revenue. And yes, content could be a part of that. We gotta look a little deeper. And from now on
So
I'm gonna
let's give
say,
some
hey,
examples. Yeah, that's a good. I wrote that down, and I might add that into one of the
yeah,
chapters because
that's pretty
one
good,
of the
man. Because that's
like
a
we spoke about on the
sheesh.
last episode, right? Where it's so useful for me to actually see like immediate both in yours and Amber's like your body language, but in what you respond to and what you don't
Yeah,
respond to, because you guys are, especially you, like you're working in it, you're running your own thing as well,
right.
and working with so many students, you've got so many boots on the floor there. So great, I wrote that down.
Sheesh.
Okay, let's talk about Jeff Steinberg. So Jeff Steinberg, he's a student in the online trainer mentorship, but he was struggling for a little bit, but his problem wasn't making sales.
Mm-hmm.
His problem actually was attracting enough people to sell to.
Mm-hmm.
Once people were in his free private community, which was a like Facebook community, it doesn't have to be, but it was for him, converting these people into clients for his thing called the Fit Parent Project was pretty straightforward. Yeah, he worked with us on sales calls and stuff like that, but I mean, to be honest, he was pretty good at it before us. His problem, though, was that social media wasn't generating interest, and so nobody was joining his community. You don't. Here's the misconception, right? You don't compete with other business owners when you create content. You compete for attention with full-time influencers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again. You're not competing with other business owners when you're creating content. You are competing with full-time influencers. And so feeding the machine is exhausting. On top of running a business, it's often too much. Now, if you enjoy content creation, don't stop doing it. Cool. But most don't. Most people tell me that it's a constant source of anxiety, a frustration, a burnout, but they don't know a better way. It's thrown in front of our faces. If everybody's standing on tiptoes at a parade, nobody has a good view. Don't copy them. Find your own parade or saddle up next to somebody who's already found a good seat. So instead of trying to attract parents through his own content, Jeff found mompreneurs with at least 10,000 followers. These women were already selling healthy products at a premium to Jeff's target market. People who buy premium health products buy lots. People who don't. It makes sense then to go to places, if you're trying to sell expensive coaching to parents, go to places where parents are already buying expensive health products. Kind of obvious, right? Rowena owned and operated something called Healing Mama Co. They made pre- and postpartum kits for expectant mothers. Rowena's Instagram page had 22,000 followers. Now, at the time, an ultimate labor and postpartum hospital bag from Healing Mama Co. cost $288.88. Jeff bought one. He did a collaborative giveaway with her on her Instagram. In order to enter, people had to join Jeff's Fit Parent Project online community, which is where the winner got announced. Over 100 people joined. Most people view social media as a tool for generated attention, and it is, but you've got to be all in on content creation, which is a game that most business owners I speak to don't want to play. A better way is to build your account like it's a sales page with updates, with case studies, with testimonials. Its job isn't to attract attention, it's to convert attention attracted elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Jeff's minimum coaching package cost $2,000. He could run 7 promotions with Rowena and get 1 client to break even. Within 6 months of shifting his focus away from the content hamster wheel, his business grew to the point where his wife quit her unfulfilling job and joined him in the business. And Rowena made a sale. She's happy too. So that's one example. I got another example in a minute. The other example I like quite a bit. It's a good friend of mine, but it's so obvious when you kind of think about it, isn't it? Where it's just like, if you don't want to create content, go where somebody does like creating content and just figure out a way to support them and work with them. And that person probably shares your audience.
It's
you don't
true.
need to do it all yourself, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think because of the fact that social media is so visible, and because humans generally find ourselves in a place of comparison. I mean, you've spoken about that on the podcast several times before too, Johnny. And it could be comparing to something that you don't even really want to do, but you just find yourself in that comparison space anyway. I think for those 2 reasons, people focus in on being excellent at social media for the sake of being excellent on social media. And there's no actually specified desired end result of it. And they just stop there, right? They get on, I made a good post. It got a lot of likes. Tomorrow I'll get on and make another good post instead of going through the comments on that post, seeing what those people do. Are they aligned in any way with the population that you serve? Is there some way to leverage the fact that that person commented? Is that a person that runs a podcast? And now I can reach out to them. Hey, thanks so much for liking my post and commenting. I've loved to present some of the things on your podcast. We serve the same population. It's almost like they get to the post, they get to the social media thing, and then they're satisfied and they stop. And then they think, oh, because of that post, people will now flock to me, instead of having some sort of strategy to leverage it the way that Jeff did. I see this other person, they've got this great thing, it aligns with my population. Maybe I'll speak to them about doing a giveaway. And I got
another example of somebody else here.
Give me another one.
So Sarah Feldstein, she left her accounting career to design toys that do more through her company called Baroomba Play. Her first ambitious product was a kids' modular play couch. Sarah's a pretty inspiring story of resilience and of overcoming. Basically, she burned out and had a mental breakdown during COVID. 2 young girls. COVID-19 happened. It was right around tax time, and she had to do it at home with her 2 young girls as an accountant. And it just burnt her out and broke her down. And she said, screw it, I'm out. And she was in line to take over her dad's accounting firm. Like, she was set, right, and left it. So she got a lot of press. And she even actually won the Visa's She's Next grant, which was a big deal. Not only that, her TikTok content started to get hundreds of thousands of views. None of these things sold couches. The major press was really good social proof to feature on her website, but it didn't create customers. So it's great to have it on the website. It's going to be there on the website forever. The TikTok content. This is my favorite part of the story. The TikTok content. So it turns out, Ren, I didn't know this, and I hope you didn't know this either. It turns out that calling yourself an accountant on TikTok is a discreet way of saying that you're a sex worker.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
That's probably the best thing I'm going to hear today.
So people on TikTok thought that Sarah was a prostitute selling play coaches that do more.
That's quite a package though. When the prostitute comes with the couch, it's pretty great. That's a good deal.
With a tagline, may I remind you of toys that do more.
Oh, that's perfect. Way to go, Sarah. You're killing the game out there.
Viewers of her TikTok were understandably disappointed when they found out the truth.
You hear the collective, oh man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, this is great. This should be a show.
You ever eaten avocado?
No.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Now! Eat me now! Eat me now! Oh, too late. That's avocados.
Oh.
Avocados have a really short shelf life to be eaten. Baroomba Play is what I call an avocado business.
Mm-hmm.
A customer isn't interested, then they're shopping for a new home and are ready to buy, and if you don't catch them at that second, it's too late. There's no nurturing, really. Sarah's challenge is to insert herself into places where people go when they're ready to buy, knowing that they probably didn't even know that play coaches existed a few days prior to that. And so what she did, once she had this whole debacle on TikTok, she was so happy when she was getting all those views too.
She left the sex worker industry.
It's like my best friend's wife, by the way. So she found,
sex worker?
And she's brilliant. She's so smart.
Gotcha.
I admire the hell out of her. Not a sex worker.
Okay.
But yeah, brilliant mumpeter. Anyway, what she did is she found Play Coach review articles already ranking in Google. She literally searched like Play Coach reviews. And then she just wrote an edition for Baroomba Play. She formatted it in the style of the page, and she emailed it to the blogger. Like, it took her 10 minutes to create. Mm-hmm. What she told me is that the easier you make it for them, the better chance that they'll say yes. Like, it's so obvious. You go to a place where people are already ranking for reviews of these articles. You ask for your review to be added. You make it easy for them. So you already format your review in the format of their post, ready to go when you give it to them.
Right.
So that they can copy and paste it. And it's good for them because, this is like nuanced into SEO stuff, but the more recently you've updated a blog post, the better chance it'll continue to rank for longer. So it's actually good for the bloggers to update their blog post. So the first review that she did this in referred to $85,000 in net sales. She repeated the process with another blog, and she saw $36,000 from 52 sales tracked by a referral code coming.
Nice.
But what she said to me is review articles are at the bottom of the funnel. She said they're great, but there aren't that many of them, and not everybody is buying at this moment. Most people still don't know what a play coach is. So my next job is finding people higher up in the funnel and educating them. Okay, what the hell is a funnel? It's a book called Breakthrough Advertising. It's kind of like the go-to advertising book by Eugene Schwartz. Super dense, but super valuable. I was actually given a copy years back. So somebody bought the rights to it, and now you can get it for like $20, $30. When I was given a copy, it was out of print, and copies were sold for like $800, $1,000.
Shit.
So in that book, Eugene Schwartz describes 5 levels of customer awareness. Right? He goes, unaware is number 1. They don't even know that they have a problem. Mm-hmm. Problem aware is number 2. They know that they have a problem, but they don't know about a solution, and so they aren't looking for one yet. Number 3 is solution aware, which means that they've begun exploring fixes but don't know about all of the options. Number 4 is they're product aware, which is they know about the options and they're actively comparing options. And number 5 is most aware. They know they want to buy, but they haven't yet. And so you can immediately see how your communications and where you show up actually needs to be very different to people at different stages of this funnel, right? Uh-huh. Play Coach review blog posts appeal to customers already interested in buying one that are actively comparing options, so they're product aware. So next up, to move up the funnel, she targeted the same sites because now she had the data of which sites were referring her sales. So if she did this to 5 or 10 review sites, right, 2 of them refer to the most sales. So it's like, these clearly have the best audiences for actually people buying.
Right.
And so what she did is she targeted those same sites already sending her sales, and she sent them articles inserting Balloomba Play as a great solution to a problem readers already have. So an example is how to engage kids on rainy days without TV. Right, so she sent articles. Now, moving up this funnel one more time, Sarah's post-purchase interview provided insight into 2 problem-aware avatars, which are people who might not be looking for a solution yet, but they need one. And when they see it, they'll probably recognize it. So the first is owners of tiny homes. You know, there's like a tiny home movement. And the second is occupational therapists specializing in supporting autistic children. So then what she did is she started Googling terms like how to raise a family in a tiny home. And she pre-wrote sections for Balloomba Play and asked for those to be added into articles already ranking in Google. Finally, she scraped the Canadian-American Directory of Occupational Therapists, and she sent cold emails with the benefits of play couches for safely engaging autistic children to every single one. Then she uploaded those same emails as a custom audience into Meta, and she targets it with paid advertisements to articles that she's written about that same subject. You've got to meet somebody where they're at if you want to take them where they need to go. The lower in the funnel you're targeting, the more specific you can be about your thing, right? So problem aware, you call out the problem, you show them a solution exists. Solution aware, you demonstrate how your problem solves the problem better than other things they might be considering. Product aware, compare the options, share reviews, case studies. And then most aware, you basically just need to compel them to buy with any combination of urgency and scarcity, which is urgency is a limited time to buy, scarcity is limited quantity to buy, or bonuses or discounts or whatever it is. Sarah didn't need to get famous as a mumputter. She did, and nobody bought anything.
Right.
She didn't need the ego boost either. She wanted to sell couches, right? And when she switched her focus, it only took her 1.5 years to hit her first $1 million in sales. Before you do the work, think about the work you're doing. A post to an empty echo chamber on social media takes the same amount of time to create as an update to a review site. Content is not content, is not content, is not content. Where it's placed and the intentionality with which it's placed makes a measurable difference.
So many people think content is just content, though, and again, that's where the confusion comes in, and I think we've all seen one too many stories about virality equaling income. But oftentimes we don't know the entire story of how virality equaled income. So again, you set your marker for going viral, right? And it's the episode of Roadrunner from the 80s. One of those episodes, he catches the
where he
roadrunner.
Finally catches the roadrunner and he doesn't know what to do with him.
Holds up the sign. Now that I've caught him, what I do? He never had any idea about how it would serve his purposes to do all of that chasing for 40 years on television.
Right.
We assumed that he knew that was going to be nutrition. He was going to be able to eat and sustain himself. Meanwhile, this coyote's got no idea. He just chases for the chase of the chase. And that's how people treat social media content. They just do it because you're supposed to do it. And you get attention just so you can have attention. And then you go viral and people think you're a sex worker.
And people think you're a sex worker selling play couches that do more.
Yeah, right.
But, well, I mean, that's perhaps a unique example, but also a really funny one. But
it's good, though.
It's funny, though. But you don't have to look very far. I mean, we've spoken about it before, right? More followers, more problems.
Yeah.
Can you handle the influx? But also, even Kickstarter, I wish that I had the number in front of me. It's something like the top 10 Kickstarters of all time. So things that went viral, that generated, $10 million plus in actual revenue, something like out of the top 10, 9 were never able to deliver on their product. Like they actually had it, they had no idea what to do with it.
Right.
They couldn't fulfill the orders.
Right.
And the business went under. And their reputations went under as well.
Right.
With them. It might not be 9, but it's up there. It's more than 5 of the top 10 never actually got delivered, which is crazy when you think about it. So the question is like, yes, of course, there's, create content, go viral, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, profit. There's the South Park underpants gnomes. There's the Roadrunner, Now that I got this, what do I do with it? There's, I think both of them are there. Like now that all my hopes and dreams is the way that I thought them, went to, happened. What do I do with it? It's like, well, you're still waking up the next morning and your stomach's feeling a little bit funny and you're sitting on the toilet, man.
Pretty much.
Nothing changes. Whenever this is like super crude, but also funny.
That's all right.
That there used to be a point whenever I was like comparing myself and how I always kind of checked myself before I wrecked myself when I was falling into like comparison traps. I was like, the Queen of England, rest in peace. But like the Queen of England takes a shit just like you take a shit, just like I take a shit. And she's probably on her phone. Now, the bathroom might be gilded. There might be some gold leaf or some shit in there. But like...
Unicorn in that bathroom, John.
When you really... coming to America, the royal penis is clean. Like, maybe she doesn't wipe herself, but like...
But aside from that...
Amber, don't leave us alone again. But I think it's very important for me to remind myself all of the time that no matter what happens, you're still going to wake up the next day, and the people who matter to you are still going to be the people who matter to you, and the people who don't are not. And I have conversations with friends of mine. I mean, I'm fortunate now that I've been in this game for long enough that I have some friends who have done exceptionally well, like generational wealth.
Right.
And also like very well in terms of brands and reputations and platforms and stuff like that. And it's like, none of them are any happier. I don't know if they're any happier. I can't say that. Their lives haven't measurably changed in any meaningful way from before whatever thing happened to them that happened for them that they were working towards. In most cases, actually, it's caused a whole new set of problems.
Right.
We even get it a little bit where, and Allison and I have had to have conversations about this because we've had multiple friends of ours that have come to us asking to borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Somebody you've been friends with for a long time knows that you're doing well, they're in a bind. Hey man, yeah, like I gotta hit payroll this month. Can I just borrow $3,000? I'm good for it. I'll give you back in 10 days or whatever. I can't even imagine, highly, like people who have had highly publicized success.
Right.
I can't even imagine what they deal with. And that's money, but that's also like platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, I'm coming out with this thing. Look, I know you got that big email list, dude. Do me a solid. Like, it's got to be constant. Those are problems that, when you really think about it, are not very fun problems to have. I mean, what I said to Allison when we had the first request like that, what I said to Allison is, I don't want to do this because I cherish their friendship. And I think that if we give them this money, I think that there is a very good chance that it will irreversibly hurt our friendship. Now, we ended up doing it and it didn't, and we're still very good friends, which is great. But I said, here's the rule. It's your decision because this is like your good friend, right? This isn't
right.
So here's what I'll say is, we're going to give it to them and we're going to never expect for it back. and we're going to
Right.
never ask for it back, and we're going to never bring it up
Mm-hmm.
ever again. And we didn't, and they did end up returning it to us. But God, man, even if all this good stuff does happen to you, like Queen of England, gilded bathroom,
She still
you don't
has
want to deal with
diarrhea
it.
in there, time to time, John. Like,
I mean,
no, there's never a nice enough bathroom to prevent diarrhea, and that should be
that's
a
the
life mantra.
Amber, make a quote card out of that.
Everybody's got to deal with the shits every once in a while, brother. I mean, just the way it is. Uh, it was it was a sign of existential maturity for me to decide that no matter what I ever did in this life
Yeah,
or what I ever achieved in life, that version of me comes with the same amount of problems shifted to different problems than I have now, right?
right,
If you got on,
right.
average person got on average 10 problems in their life that just run concurrently, you're just switching for a different 10. That's all it is.
Mm,
Like, it's not a thing that solves things categorically, but again, that's the mentality of the person that goes to a social media space thinking that if I do this thing on social media, there will be an economic trickle down a la Reagan in the 80s that will solve all other things in my life because I got 500,000 likes. Somehow, that's going to transfer to people who are interested in my product or service. It's
right.
going to transition into real money. It's going to transfer into the relief of all my problems that I have. And not only will it not do that, it probably won't mean shit for your business overall because that's not, it's back to Goodhart's law, right? When a measure becomes a goal, ceases to be a good measure. 100,000 likes, that's nobody's goal. Well, again, if you're trying to attract attention, maybe it
Well,
is. But
so
for the people that are listening here and the people that are
it's
going to
not.
buy Obvious Choice, their goal's probably profit.
They're gonna buy 3 or 4 copies, I think, of the book. Yeah,
Absolutely.
not one.
Absolutely.
I want to get into the 4-stage
Do it.
framework here for content creation, but I do have one quick thing to kind of talk about there, and I think to me the crux of the problem is that we don't see the end of the story ever with somebody else, and so we make up what the end of the story is in our mind. We make
Absolutely.
up the happily ever after
Hmm.
because we're so conditioned to think that all stories have a happily ever after. How many
Hmm.
movies have you gone to see where it's been like a bad ending for the good guy? I mean, there are a few, but like not many.
Rarely.
And and so we always fill in the blank whenever anything happens that all of these nebulous hopes and dreams have come true for that other person.
It's the Shark Tank theory, right? And I love nothing more than watching like 6 hours of Shark Tank. And my
Yeah.
toxic trait is I go and Google all the businesses just to read how they failed miserably 6 months after the episode,
Right.
right? Because that's the reality. You know, you see them walk off that stage, all like, well, yeah, I'm in, and Damon's in, and everybody's in, and then, yeah, and they go to that little room. We did it, honey. They're calling their spouse back home. We did it. We got a deal. And then you Google it, and it's like, yeah, Panda Panties Incorporated took the money, and Damon ended up suing them 6 months later. They were there, like that's the reality that people don't
Yeah.
see.
Or they
And the
never made it
show,
through due diligence. I mean,
right,
it's something like 5% of deals actually make
right,
it through due diligence. Yeah.
but that doesn't make good TV.
That doesn't make good TV. All right, the 4-stage content creation framework. We've gone over this before on the podcast. I'm going to go over it again real quick. I think that it's worth repeating because, when getting frustrated that random people in the world aren't impressed by you when you've just started doing something new, um, something that you could never reasonably expect to be good at for a long time, something that you do on the side in between all of your other responsibilities as a grown-ass adult, it's a mistake.
I feel attacked.
And in addition to What? In addiction to immediacy and the dreaded comparison trap, where we compare our bloopers to other people's highlight reels, it makes us think that if we don't get an immediate response to our post on social media, then we're a failure. There's...
It sounds ridiculous when you articulate it, but it's not true. Like,
it's so obviously true. Unless your goal is to be a creator, right? Unless your goal is to monetize attention through advertisements or brand deals, it's so obviously true. Okay, so there's value, but there's still value in content when you're new, and there's value in content ongoing. The key is to figure out what value you need to get out of it based off of your situation at any given time. I think that's the key. And so you want to create content for yourself first, then for your customers, next for your industry, and finally for the world. So stage one is to do it for yourself. The best way to learn is to teach. I'm going to say that again. The best way to learn is to teach. This podcast is a way for me to learn. This podcast is a way for me to refine my thoughts. It's the best way for me to understand what I'm thinking about, to be able to write a better book for you. That's why this podcast exists. That people listen to it, great, but I have never checked the stats once. I have no idea whether there's 5 people or whether there's 10,000 people listening to this. I have literally no clue. And I don't care. Because the goal of this podcast is for me to be able to learn better, is to force me to show up every single week and have something to say that I'm either trying to make sense of or want to present on. That's the goal of this podcast. Now, will that evolve? Maybe. But that's the stated goal of this podcast, which is freeing, because then I don't get wrapped up into views or anything. Then the process becomes the goal. Then doing the thing becomes the reward. I think that creating content is an overrated way to build a business, but it's an underrated way to learn. In 2008, I started my first blog. It was called The Champion Lifestyle. Okay. You can, if you go to the...
What's that web address again?
Yeah, so if you go to the Wayback Machine, if you Google search like Internet Archive, you get to the Wayback Machine, you can see like historical websites. So it's offline now, but if you search championlifestyle.blogspot.com, you'll be able to see it.
I ran out of paper writing that down, John. Could you repeat it? I got to about 6 pages of my notebook.
Championlifestyle.
Okay.
.blogspot.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reads like a novel, but
it's a mouthful.
At least you got started, buddy. Good for you.
2008, bro.
It's a long time, man.
Nobody read it though. But during that time, I was training 12 to 14 clients one-on-one each day. I was coming home and I was reading. Then I'd write short articles about what I'd read and experienced with clients. So that blog accelerated my learning as a trainer and made me a better writer. So in the fitness game, we call this putting in the reps, don't we?
Yeah.
I was putting in the reps and I was accelerating. It was an accelerant to the reps that I was putting in.
Accelerating faster. Very
faster.
Good.
It's faster. Making it faster. Accelerating it faster. Speed, velocity, improve.
The flash of online training.
Document your journey. Document your journey. Dissociate from the outcome. Produce selfishly for yourself as a learning mechanism. It's the best advice I could give you. Also, I want to thank my mom for the first comment on my blog, because it was the only engagement that I got for the first 2 years of writing on that thing.
So there was no second comment.
If you actually go to the Wayback Machine in like 2008, you go to the first article I ever wrote, you'll see one comment. And she actually, when she wrote her comment, she signed it off, Mom.
Oh my God.
It's like, I can't even remember it. It was like, great job, John. I feel like your writing has a lot of promise, Mom.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Lillian.
Oh man. You did a great job, John.
Stage 2 is creating content for your customers. It's okay to want to impress people, but choose the right people to impress. Once you have some customers, make content for them. Because nothing that you're going to say is revolutionary. You've read the same books, you've watched the same videos as others in your industry. Still, what you know is helpful. And your people enjoy getting the information from you. Focus inwards, aim to help, be genuine. Start a newsletter, write a blog, record a podcast, make videos, or publish to social media. It doesn't matter which you choose so long as the goal is to best serve your existing customers. So in 2010, I wrote a blog for my clients. This was at jonathangoodman.ca. I'd get asked a question, I'd give an answer, and then I'd go home and I'd write an article that I could email to all of my clients. I look back and it's like, it wasn't that I didn't want to get famous on the internet. I didn't know that that was possible. Call it optimistic ignorance. The world was different back then. But still, the articles that I wrote weren't trying to impress the world. They were genuinely trying to help the people I was already working with. I think that most business owners should actually stay at stage 2 for their entire career. Because when you do, you'll get many of the content's benefits without the drawbacks of imposter syndrome, burnout, and wasted time prevalent in the creator economy. And while it shouldn't be the goal, there's a chance your work is going to get discovered by people outside of your network because genuine approaches tend to resonate. So a few of those blog posts did go viral and got the attention of influential people. I didn't go out of my way to make it happen, but I think that's what happens when you do things genuinely to help people. Mm-hmm. So before long, Livestrong named me one of the 45 best trainers you've never heard of, which is hilarious because nobody had ever seen me train anybody. Think about that. Men's Health asked me to contribute to a book. I think it's the men's book of abs. I think it is that I have a workout in there. And I actually got offered a writing spot on Arnold Schwarzenegger's blog. So I wrote 4 or 5 articles on Arnold Schwarzenegger's blog back then. Now, at the time, I was a personal trainer working out of a small boutique gym in Toronto. And I learned 2 things from going viral multiple times back then. The first is that the best content genuinely tries to help a specific person, not impress the world. Mm-hmm. And that the second is getting featured on massive media outlets didn't lead to business. None of my newfound attention led to a single training client, ever. Literally not one. There's this wonky misconception that you've got to do cool stuff online in order to enable you to do cool stuff in the real world. It's the opposite. You do cool stuff first, then you talk about it in a cool way online. The blog post that I wrote didn't lead to clients, but they did lead to industry attention. Now, that attention combined with me being legitimately successful in my job outside of writing online. I'm going to say that again. That attention combined with me being legitimately successful at my job outside of writing online was a potent combination. Before long, colleagues began asking me what I was doing, so I started to write about that too. Now, up until this point, following count doesn't matter. But if you decide to transition to stage 3, that changes. Right? Stage 3 is creating content for your industry. Let's talk about Andrew Coates. Andrew Coates hasn't left his day job. It's where the ideas for his content come from. In addition, he shares his colleagues' work, he hosts an interview podcast, and in 4 years, he's earned 150,000 Instagram followers. Now, he further supplements his work by hosting an industry conference. Andrew's continued investments into his career capital are leading to a bright future. There's something the podcast host Jordan Harbinger says, which is dig the well before you're thirsty. Andrew's doing that. For 2 years, from 2011 to 2013, I worked on a personal trainer development center website, which is the ptdc.com, at night after a full day of clients. I wrote and I published articles from other industry experts. Our first product was a crowdsourced ebook called 101 Personal Trainer Mistakes. Did you ever download that one?
I don't believe I did, John.
No. You came along a little bit later.
Yeah, I was after that.
I asked colleagues for a contribution. I pasted all of them into Microsoft Word, literally copy and paste them. This thing had typos galore. Didn't even proofread the stupid thing. I paid $5 for a cover design on Fiverr.com, and I saved it as a PDF. That ebook had 300 downloads in its first week. Don't worry about what to sell if you're at stage 3, because your day job should be making you enough money. Mm-hmm. Instead, focus on building your audience by growing a platform that your colleagues are going to benefit from. Then, once you have an audience, Ask them what they need, make it, and sell it to them. It's that simple. By 2015, the PTDC website had 4 million visitors per year. From 2011 to 2023, I hosted 5 conferences, published 11 books, developed 6 digital products, built a certification course, and developed a software platform. We've served over 200,000 customers in 120 countries in that time. Stage 4 is creating content for the world. Elon Musk once tweeted, "For improved quality of sleep, raise head of your bed by about 3 inches or 5 centimeters and don't eat 3 hours before bedtime." Musk isn't a sleep expert. His tweet is boring and the advice is basic. But despite that, it got 31,000 shares and 349,000 likes. So as a test, I copied his post and I tweeted it on my account.
It's your mom again?
It got 1 like. The difference is that he's Elon Musk and I'm not. Thought leadership is primarily about the earned reputation of the person and not the quality of the content. The truth is that success on social media without success in the real world is exceedingly rare. You ascend to stage 4 by earning a reputation and amplifying your impact through content for years. Now, if you're at this level, it's helpful to understand why people use social media and how to combine different types of content. So in my book called Vironomics, which I published in 2015, I wrote about how we're all addicted to an invisible drug called IIAF, that we mostly use social media as an act of selective self-representation, as a way to feel like we appear intelligent, interesting, intellectual, attractive, or funny. Now, whether we actually appear those ways is irrelevant. What matters is that we think that we do. Our self-worth isn't impacted by reality, it's impacted by our version of reality. So let me ask you a question, Ren. What's a duck's favorite snack?
Quackers.
Cheese and quackers.
If Eddie Murphy posted that, he'd get more likes though.
It doesn't change how I feel about myself if you think that I'm funny. What matters is that
Clearly.
I think that you think that I am, and that joke is goddamn hilarious.
Clearly, it doesn't matter if we think you're funny, John. We've discovered that several times over here on the podcast.
So there's 2 reasons why information gets shared. The first is that the person sharing wants to become part of a group or strengthen their position within one. And the second is that the person thinks the material makes them seem funny or sound smart. The content that best attracts new followers is different from the content that converts them into customers. Broken down into its simplest parts, thought leaders publish a combination of 3 types of content: viral, which attracts followers; value, which solves their problem; and depth, which creates connection with them. Purely viral accounts attract the most followers but lack any meaningful ability to sell. Mm-hmm. Accounts that include problem-solving content often lack the size to make an impact. And if you're only posting personal information, well, you're not creating content. You're basically sharing stuff about your life with a few friends. Now, the right ratio of different content types changes. Early on in stage 4, it should probably be skewed more towards viral, later towards value. Okay. Let's finish this by talking about the quality of the trade. It's just too easy to do a bad job these days, man. It's too easy to think that you're working when all you're doing is posting a status update. It's too easy to think that you're marketing when all you're doing is editing a 7-second video with a free app on your phone. It's too easy to slap together an image, hack together a free website, or bulk send 50 networking emails. Anybody, anywhere, for free, in a day, with a media studio in their pocket, can start a business online and publish content to social media, which is wonderful, truly. But also, if it's easy for you, it's easy for others. And as a result, there's more noise and less quality than ever. Impressions will continue to get harder to earn and more expensive to buy. There might be a best way to take advantage of the algorithm today, but that's going to change tomorrow. Long term, it's not going to matter. Chasing platforms and algorithms is straight up exhausting, dude. So trying to win the internet is seductive. I get it. I've fallen into that trap. It's a siren's call. In almost every case, people who provide value directly to a much smaller community earn more money, though. Instead of trying to monetize generalized attention, what these people do is they monetize the quality of the trade. Over the course of your career, it's reasonable for your goals to change. With that comes changes in how you might decide to measure success. Whether or not you use social media is your decision. If you do use it, define what making it work for you means. It was never necessary for success, and it never will be. It's simply a tool, a potentially useful tool, but simply a tool. Okay, Ren, I'm going to recommend another episode, then we get out of here. Because that's the pod. And I got to get some food. Have you eaten lunch yet? Yeah, you're muted. All right, well, that's fine. Great ending to a pod, everybody. Episode 151, if you're looking for another episode to listen to. This is called Building a No BS Personal Brand and Starting Over. This is actually a reposting of a podcast that I did with Louis Grenier, who's a friend of mine. He runs the Everyone Hates Marketers podcast. And it's particularly interesting because he's actually the guy who we hired that led to us letting go the majority of our staff and me refocusing on my personal brand and changing our business considerably. So he had a lot of like behind the scenes access to that. And we go pretty deep. This is a super personal episode. So we reposted that on our podcast here. It's episode 151. Have a listen. Building a No BS personal brand and starting over. Hope that you enjoy it. Thanks always for hanging out. We'll talk soon.